Righty, welcome down at DD Speed Shop. No, that's Glenn at NZ Hombre Customs. But anyway, I stumbled across this guy's channel. It's the Chubby Mechanic. So him and his mate bought that 57 Chev hardtop and the 56 wagon off Dan at DD Speed Shop. They made a video. This one guy, he's had a channel for a wee while. He's only got I don't know, he's a few hundred subs. But man, the friggin' negative comments on there about them buying the cars from Dan is friggin' crazy. Like these guys drove these cars home part of the way, and then unfortunately his mate had to get back to work straight away. Had planned obviously to do it over quite a few days, but it just got to the point where his mate had to go back to work pretty much as soon as he could possibly get home. So they hired a couple of U-Hauls, threw the cars in the trailers and dragged them home. They had a couple of teething issues. I know the 57 had a problem with his alternator and balled a battery and whatever. Shit happens. It was overcharging and whatever. And it says that in the video. But man, even like the comments on that, it's just like some people are just fucking dumb when it comes to car stuff. They really are. Or just like they watch like half the video and then they like comment and they don't watch the rest of it to see what the fuck's going on. Do you know what I mean? I know it's easy to comment when you're sort of halfway through and then it's like, 2 minutes later, it's like the rest of the answer's there, if you know what I mean. But yeah, like a lot of these people are saying, I wouldn't buy anything off Dan, the biggest fucking heaps of shit in the world and whatever. But it's funny, there's another video, this guy's got the 57 up on his 2-post horse at home, and the thing's like fucking brand new underneath. Like, sure, the chassis is not painted, but the chassis looks in good nick. It's got a brand new fucking floor on it. You can see it's got all the body bushings in the right places. You can see all the suspension arms have got new bushes in it, and there's all new hardware in it. And when Dan builds something, okay, there's a few things that I wouldn't do because I know I wouldn't get away with them over here. Like if you're going to replace sills or rockers or anything like that, and it's going to be inspected, you've got to replace the whole thing from pinch weld to pinch weld. Or, you know what I mean? From the right at the bottom to the right at the top, plus underneath all the bits and pieces. It's got to be the full replacement, or as much as you possibly can. Over here, and there's a few things like that I've seen Dan do, and you sort of think, oh yeah, you really should just replace the whole fucking thing, dude. But anyway, you just put a couple of patches in it. But I think for the majority of his cars that he builds, especially the Tri-5s, like most of them, I think he's replaced the full floors in. I know there's a couple that he's had just patched them up, or he's just put new braces in places and whatever, and just done a couple of patches. But I think for the majority of the cars that he's built, he's pretty much put new floors in most things. You can't always, but you know what I mean. But yeah, like the body work, I could say, okay, is not. We're not talking show cars here. He's building ratty drivers, but 90% of them have got a new fucking wiring harness. All the suspension stuff's been rebuilt with new bushes and whatever, new shocks, new brakes, new brake lines, new fuel lines. Most of them have got decent radiators in them, whatever. So yeah, a lot of times the trans is rebuilt, but sometimes okay, you might put a second-hand trans in and just throw another motor in it and whatever, and they mightn't be perfect or whatever. People make mistakes, but it is what it is. You can't always put a brand new fucking crate motor in, a brand new this and a brand new diff and fucking brand new everything. You use what you got sometimes, but I don't know. I would buy one of Dan's cars. Like, fucking damn sight better than some of the shit that I've seen come in from the US and shit like that have been imported in, and you know, the cars look like a fucking show car, and then it's just a pile of fucking garbage. You know, like nothing's. It's had like 10 tack welds along a whole rocker. You know, it's had like 10 little spot welds on it and shit like that and whatever. So yeah, like, and it's poorly put together. But you know, or it's just full of body filler and chassis rails and all that sort of bullshit where it's been a uni body car and they just slathered a whole heap of like under seal on it and shit like that to make it look like it's, you know, been all prettied up in it. You put under seal on it to make it look all nice or whatever. You know, but it's just full of fucking body filler and foam and fucking all sorts of shit like that. Like, that shit does not fucking fly. But for the most part, Dan builds a pretty safe car. But yeah, you know, it kind of is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. I think people knock him because they're fucking jealous to be the most part. You know, and there was a couple of guys in there, oh yeah, just fucking selling, just building shit and flipping shit and whatever. The only reason why he sold most of his stuff is because he needs to move to get a bigger place so he can store the cars that he's building. You know, he's one of these people that started a YouTube channel, got some decent traction. I'd fucking love to be in the position where he is now. I've been fighting for years to try and get a decent grip on and whatever and get some decent revenue back so I can build stuff a bit more like this, but for myself instead of building customers' cars. But yeah, I'd like to be in that fucking situation too, but we can't buy, you know, like rough tri-5s over here for 3 or 4 grand or whatever, if you know what I mean, or even something else, you know, like those Chevelles and the Camaros and all sorts of shit. Like, you probably would have paid decent money for the Camaros. I think he said about 16 grand for the 2 or whatever it was, or at the time, or something like that. But yeah, no, we couldn't buy anything like that. We would be 15, 20 grand for a beater that needed a whole lot of work. You know, ones are like these that actually will run and drive on the road and for the most part are safe. It'd be 25 to 30, you know. You know, that hard top, if it was in primo nick, you know, nice interior, nice paint, you know, all dialed and underneath, that would be $100,000 fucking dollar car here all day long. You know, depending on what had been done to it. But yeah, crazy. Like, I don't know why people bag on them so much. I think they're just jealous because they can't do the fucking same thing. But you know, like, some of his work is a bit rough in some places, but for the majority of it, it's solid. You know, he's putting new floors, you know, he's putting quarters on stuff and whatever, and in a, you know, wheel tubs and all that sort of shit. He's not as though he's just fucking filling it full of chicken wire and just mudding it up and shit like that, you know. For the most part, he's fucking getting rid of the rust and doing it reasonably well, you know, or he's building some patches and putting in places where, obviously, you know, it is what it is, but for the most part, he's doing it fucking pretty good. Like, you know, I think people just get a bit fucking pissed off because they can't do the same thing, you know, and don't have the money to do it. Well, you know, he probably didn't have the money to do it for a start off. He picked away at the first couple of cars and got some decent traction, and now it's starting to pay for itself. So fuck, I'd be doing the same thing, you know. I'd have 20 or 30 cars too if I freaking could, but I don't. But, you know, it will happen eventually, but yeah, I don't know. It's funny, like, you know, he's only sold a lot of these cars because he's got to move. He needs a decent property. He had so many cars in storage. I think between having them in storage and then and whatever, like, he's better off to sell the 2 properties he's got side by side with those 2 sheds and sell a few cars and buy another property, which I think he's right in the middle of doing. You know, they're looking at furniture and shit like that and whatever and stuff. So, you know, I think they might have a property, or they're in the midst of acquiring a property. So yeah, I don't know. I don't blame the guy for selling stuff. You know, sometimes that's what you got to do. You know, I think he would have quite liked to have kept some of these cars, but you know, he kept the ones he really wanted to keep and sold the stuff that didn't matter quite so much to build up some cash, to get some cash asset to put into another property, and then he can carry on. You know, he can keep doing what he's doing and buy more and save more cars. You know, half the shit would have been fucking just scrap if you didn't fix it. So yeah, I don't know. I'll try to make this video a couple of times. I try to do it on my computer and screen and do a screen capture, but when I try to flick between videos, it was a pain in the ass. But if you look at his other video, Chubby, fucking what's his name? Chubby, that chubby mechanic. Yeah, if you look at his other video underneath that 56 wagon, it is fucking like a brand new car underneath there. He had to fix the drive shaft because the yoke was a bit worn and it chatted the bush and stuffed the seal in the back of the trans. But you know, it's just one of those things that when the drive shaft was remade, it probably should have had a new yoke on it. But he obviously thought that the guy that built the drive shaft probably didn't mention that it really needed a new yoke or something like that or whatever. But yeah, you know, that shit happens. You know, alternators go bad and overcharged. You know, shit happens. But fucking the amount of fucking negative comments these poor guys got for freaking buying Dan's cars is incredible. Like, there's a lot of good comments there too, but fuck, there's some rough ones for no fucking reason really. Like, I would buy one of Dan's cars all days long. You know, I'd fix some things that he does just because I know it wouldn't pass over here. But if I lived over there, man, I'd be doing the same fucking thing. If you could get away with some things in your new year that you didn't have to do it as long as it was solid and it was sound. Fuck, I would do exactly the same thing for the most part, within reason, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I would make sure my body works a bit better if I was going to paint something. But yeah, for the most part, I think his cars are pretty safe and sound. You know, it's just some of the things probably need done a little bit tidier for the most part. You know, in certain areas. But fuck, I think most of it's pretty good, really.